Okay, fine. I'll play Kirby. I mean, I like Kirby. I grew up playing Return to Dreamland and Epic Yarn at friends' houses, and I actually remember playing the demo for Kirby's Epic Yarn in the New York Nintendo store during a family trip, and I really wanted the game. I never got it though. But still, this character holds a special place in my heart. I was a Kirby main in Brawl and spammed down beyond my friends. So yeah, you could say I was pretty respected by my peers. Unfortunately for me, RetroAchievements doesn't have support for Wii games, yet. So I can't experience the games I missed out on as a kid. So I think I'll settle for the next best thing, the Kirby game on the Nintendo 64. Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, is kind of weird. It's actually not a game at all. According to Amazon, it's a hairbrush. Actually, it really is a game. A 2D side-scroller with 3D graphics and models. I always thought it was a 3D platformer, but I guess I'm just uneducated. What really sets this game apart from the earlier Kirby games is the copy combinations. You're able to fuse together two elements to make cool new power-ups, like Kirby with a lightsaber. But once again, we're using RetroAchievements to add some achievement support into the game. I've already made numerous videos on the site, so I'm not going to explain it too much. And if you want to know what it is, look it up yourself. I told you I'm not explaining it. But this game has a total of 38 achievements. Some of them are normal progression achievements for beating every stage, boss, and collecting the game's collectibles, the Crystal Shards. I'll also need to transform into every single copy ability, along with various achievements for doing bosses damageless, playing through the minigames on insane mode, boss rushes, and also gambling? Kinda. So Kirby 64 is going to be a journey of adventure, love, loss, death, and achievement hunting. So lock in, brother. By the way, unrelated, but I just set the first channel goal. Once I hit 5,000 subscribers, I'm finally going to bite the bullet and do the bonus subset for Super Mario 64, which has a 50 times rarity score, and only a handful of people have done it. So if you want to see that, you know what to do. And while you're down there, like and comment. It really helps boost these videos in the algorithm, and I'm a starving young man. Kirby 64, like many games, starts off on a main menu, where we get a little intro to the game's story. What's nice about this is that there's no text or narration explaining anything that's going on, so I get to take creative liberty and make it my own. On the planet of the Hearts and Bows, there lives a colony of peaceful fairy creatures. They enjoyed things like flying and hanging out in front of a fountain. Until one day, darkness consumed their planet. A small pink-haired fairy, determined to save her friends, jumped on top of this rhombus and was sent flying into space. While being chased by evil eyeballs, she was knocked off and fell down to Planet Star. Looking at the file select, I had 000% completion, so I think it's time to get this thing started. As it turns out, it looks like Kirby lives on Planet Star, and inconveniently for him, Pink Fairy Girl managed to fall from orbit directly onto him. It seems like whatever the Pink Fairy was riding broke up into a ton of pieces, and Kirby has been tasked with finding and fusing them all together. They run off together to start this journey. So now, I actually found out that this planet is called Pop Star, and it's the first world of the game. Using this crayon, we can start off on the first level. Right away, I ate fire and shot it out at the spike guy, which gave me my first copy combination. Brother, ew, what is this? Yeah, I got rid of that. And oh my god, Kirby has a flaming fire sword. This game is amazing. If you do some yoga, by the way, you can throw the sword too. The first of the game's 74 shards is just out in the open over here, which makes me think that this will be an absolute breeze. Inside of this house, I had my first ever mini boss battle, which was nothing to write home about. The fire sword made quick work of it. I actually managed to pick up a bomb and use it to accidentally uncover the shard over here. Guess my super gaming instinct kicked in, but that was it for the level. Turns out Waddle Dee over here found a shard himself, but his stupid ass was attacked by eyeballs over here, and because of that, he turned evil, and I had to bomb him. This unlocked the first achievement of the set, Waddle Dee Origin. Now that he's nice though, he joins our team, and in just a few minutes, we went from a lone wolf to the leader of a pack. I'm gonna be real, I need this video to be short in length because I want to see if I can get this retention graph up. So I'm only going to talk about the highlights of each level and if there are any tough shards to find. Thanks to our newfound Waddle Dee friend, we made him into essentially a living circus elephant and had him bring us across this gap where the first shard of this level is hiding. After the springy boing boss, this wonderful painter finds a shard as well and is possessed to become evil. And we have to fight her. If you're smart and want to get the achievements in this set as quickly as possible, I'd recommend using the Stone Friends combination since there's an achievement for beating the boss with that ability, which is the only missable achievement in this whole set. But I personally like to make things harder for myself, so I didn't do that. Once we do complete this fight, we get a normal progression achievement though, so that's nice. Like the other two characters we've met this far, Adeline joins our cause and fights on the side of the resistance to restore the world to a state of peace, and we run off into the sunset. I just noticed that during this little mini game, Waddle Dee is eating a delicious donut. Stage 3 takes place inside and around this castle. I picked up the double cutter ability, which what? But thankfully, picking this up allowed me to get the first shard, which is only grabbable through breaking this block, which requires a cutter ability to break through. After you make it to the end of this level, you have to fight your rival, King DDD, who so rudely snags this crystal shard from under our grasp. I just bashed him in the face a few times with the fire ability, and I got the achievement for beating DDD and for all the shards in Popstar. Oh, and by the way, well, this might come as a surprise to you, or maybe not, I'm not so sure, but he decided to join the team as well. I love a good enemies to lovers story. We've now beat all of the main levels in Popstar, so it's time to fight this Kirby classic, Wispy Woods. This fight starts off with these cute little baby Wispies, and we gotta hit them with apples. After each one gets hit a few times, they die, and we move on to phase 2 of the fight, where we kinda do the same thing, except we directly hit Wispy Woods with apples. This fight is pretty easy and got me an achievement. Now that we have a big shard, we earn the ability to open wormholes in space. So naturally, we hop through it to this empty vacuum of space and get transported over to World 2, Rockstar. This isn't a star. What's with the naming? In stage 1 of Rockstar... Oh wait, I get it now! I got the bow and arrow ability that I don't like, but I had to deal with it for a while until I became Giant Rock Kirby. This is so sick! Shard 1 and 2 are pretty self-explanatory. They're easily findable, but Shard 3, this gave me some deep trouble. For this one, you need the Stone Spark combination in order to open a barrier that hides the shard. This inconveniently took a very long time. I was looking for a way to get Stone Spark for a good half hour, so I gave up until later. So, in Rockstar 2, I got Stone Spark within 15 seconds of starting the stage, so I felt like I wasted 30 minutes that I was never gonna get back, but I pushed forward through the level. I got some good practice in with the combo though, since I wanted to keep it in order to use it back in stage 1. Shards for this stage were easy to find. In the center of these ruins, in the pit at the very start of the inside section, then the last one is obtainable by exploring during the DDD labyrinth section. For some reason, I decided not to go back into Rockstar 1 and went into stage 3. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad though, and the Rock Spark came in handy. In order to get the first shard, you need a rock ability to break down this brown platform. Shard 2 was a little bit tough to find. You need to go through a specific hole in order to get into the back part of this stage. I went the wrong way, so I backed out, and wait, now is when I decided to go back into stage 1? What am I doing? I'm making editing way harder for myself. Well, I brought Sparkstone all the way back to the end and got that last shard in stage 1. Finally. This is also when I collected the first of these mystery cards, which I guess I should explain now since it's coming up. Essentially, after you beat each level, there's this picnic minigame where you can jump to an item. These mystery cards serve as a collectible. By getting them, you unlock info cards in the game's menu, and later on, we're gonna need to get all 81 of them for an achievement. Alright, back into Rockstar 3. I got Shard 2 by going the correct way, then I accidentally fire shot myself away from the last one and through this door, which of course was the very end of the level. So I had to go back in and do the whole thing again. Well, at least now I'm caught up shard-wise. Stage 4 has another obscure card, but we'll get to that when we get to it. For now, the first shard is right here. Can't miss it. Okay, we got to it. For Shard 2, for some reason, you need to use Spark Bomb in this room with Adeline, which I don't have, so I pushed on through. Now I had to go back into this level to try and find Spark Bomb. The bomb can be found right at the start of the level, but the Spark, on the other hand, you need to get some ways in. These dudes in the corners of the first shard room are sparks, so I fused Bomb and Spark, and I could finally see what Adeline had painted. These paintings corresponded to the correct blocks, so I pushed them down and got the achievement for all the shards in Rockstar. The last thing to do in Rockstar was take on its boss, these crystals, which I guess are called picks. There are two phases to this fight. The first where you need to dodge everything going on as you ride this elevator platform to the top, and the second phase where you need to pick up these 3D printed looking objects in order to hit the crystals. This one was pretty tough for me, but it took a few tries to get through. But since I'm a pro veteran gamer at the ripe old age of 21, I beat the boss for an achievement. As a squad, Kirby and gang are stuffing their fat faces using, I guess, painting magic. Wait, I want to be able to draw something then be able to eat it, but we go through another portal to World 3, Aqua Star. This is where I discovered one of my favorite abilities in the game. But actually, as much as I love SpongeBob, this ability sucks. The third shard here in stage 1 is another one that requires a specific power combo. This one needs Ice Bomb, which allows you to open up the floor here and get shot up to the shard. Right off the bat in stage 2, the first shard requires the Burning Stone ability. Shard 2 can be collected while riding Splash Mountain. Oh, wait, it's not called Splash Mountain anymore? Jesus Christ, they still have this up in 2024? Shard 2 can be found while riding Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I then got an achievement for grabbing an invincibility lollipop. Once again, we need a specific ability at the start of level 3. This time it is the bomb cutter in order to open up this rock thing. Then we need stone cutter for the last one. I gotta say, using Rick to get to the top is pretty cool. He can do wall jumping. And yes, his name is Rick. More SpongeBob, this is great. The jokes write themselves. Thankfully, stage 4 is a break from needing to seek out specific ability combinations. And the shards are pretty easy to find. The only one you could miss is this one at the top left of the underwater current area. Other than that, they're right on path to the exit. Alright, ready, we are on to the boss battle of Aqua, a shark, which like the other bosses has 2 phases. In the first phase, you need to dodge as he shoots fish out of his mouth or tries to dive bomb you. Then during phase 2, you need to eat the missiles he's throwing, then just toss them back at him while Sharkman floats back and forth. Nothing too hard here. Surprisingly, we've already beat 3 of the game's 6 worlds, so we're about halfway through this initial playthrough. In World 4, Neostar ended up being one of my favorites. In Stage 1, the first shard is hiding in one of these false grounds, and then when you get to this climbing section, to get to the next shard, you actually need to go down. Stage 2 starts you off in an absolute freefall, so you need to prepare to immediately go left to grab the first shard. Shard 2 is during this minecart section, which is starting to remind me of another game. The last one requires Stone Bomb to explode this wall. This one took me a bit actually, because for one, I needed to find a good place to get Stone Bomb, and then I ended up blowing myself up multiple times. But eventually, after an embarrassingly long time, I finally got to Stage 3, where Shard 1 needed any needle-based ability, which was easy. Shard 2 is actually one of my favorites in the game, because it's pretty neat and creative. You need to see what Adeline paints on her easel, then mimic it with these star blocks. This one also gave me some trouble initially, but I got it. In Stage 4, Shard 1 was hiding in this pillar during the DDD riding section. Yeah, I didn't like saying that. Shard 2 needed an ice-based ability. This one also sucked because I just kept dying, man, and I need to go back and forth and back and forth. But it was fine in the end because I had these cool ice skates. Neostar has my favorite boss in the game, this cute magma monster. Basically, you dodge his goopy magma arms and hit them when you pick up these orb dudes. Then for phase 2, he gets a bit more physical, where you can die to fire breath, or alternatively, you can use these birds or falling rocks to shoot at Magman to take him out instead. It might seem like I'm breezing through these fights, but trust me, I'm gonna need to get to know these bosses for some later achievements. Shiver Star is cold, and it's apparent off the bat because I turned into a giant snowball. And about halfway through the level, we hop into an awesome sled ride with our best friend Waddle Dee. For one of the shards in this stage, you need to have a fire-based ability in order to thaw out this ice after the mid-level boss. In Stage 2, Shard 1 is easily missable if you're stupid. I missed it. It's underneath this here cloud platform, and it's decently hidden if you're not paying attention. Shard 2 is right off to the top left here. I'll mention it because it's a little out of the way. And Shard 3 requires Needle Spark, which thankfully can be found in this level. But, hold on, let me crash out here. Why? Tell me why is this so hard for me to do? I genuinely could not get to the spark enemy without dying. It took me at least 20 minutes just to do this. It really should not have been this hard. I just kept finding a stupid way to either lose my needle ability or die. But I took a deep breath, did some yoga, no I didn't, and finished this level. Stage 3, thankfully this one was much easier. I took out all of my pent-up anger on these enemies, and for Shard 3, I needed to decode Adeline's bullshit to get this third one. I guess she gives you hints as to which switches to press. I guess they're based off of color. I wasn't really sure what this was supposed to be, but it's brown if you were wondering. For Shard 1 of Stage 4, I needed Stone Needle. This power-up is sick because you get to drill like a real manly man. And if there's one thing I know about Kirby, is that he's an alpha bro. But you gotta break these crates with drill, and there's Shard 1. And wouldn't you know it, I need Spark Cutter for this next one. Back to hell it is, I guess. This one is in the cage, and there's the achievement for every shard in Shiver Star. Okay, once again, we have a pretty sick boss coming out. It's a freaking giant robot. I genuinely died a couple times trying to figure out his attack pattern, but eventually for phase 1 I did, and moved on to phase 2, where he transforms into this thing, and we gotta just shoot some missiles at him to wrap up Shiver Star and get the achievement for beating this boss. Now that that's all finished up, it's time to portal off to one last world, Heart Place, or a Ripple Star. And this one's actually gonna end up being a shorter world without too many tough shards. In Stage 1, the only shard you could really miss is this last one at the very end. You need to get Needle Bomb in order to open up this rock in the little pond. For Stage 2, the first shard needs any sort of spark ability to be unlocked, which you can get at the very beginning of Stage 1. The block you need to break open is right at the start where you fall into the water. As a tip, after the part where DDD breaks a rock for you, you're gonna want to grab this cutter. And also, it's in this section where you can find the second shard as well. Then in the invincibility area, you're gonna need to use cutter to get this last shard. The last level of the entire game is essentially a hack and slash where you need to go through multiple enemy ambushes to reach the end of the level. Shards 1 and 3 are pretty much unmissable, but Shard 2 requires Burn Needle, which should be fine since you fight both fire and needle-based enemies during the prior fights. After the last ambush, I collected the last shard in the game for an achievement. The World 6 boss is Miracle Matter, and I'm not gonna lie, this boss is both challenging and cool. Basically, the boss switches between a few different types of attacks, and you need to use their own attacks to do some chip damage. Because of how little damage you do, it's kind of a marathon fight, and because of that, this one took me quite a bit of time to get down. This takes a lot of trial and error. I really got to know the ins and outs of it, so it was super satisfying when I finally pulled it off. But even though this was the boss for the final world, we aren't quite done yet. Right after we defeated Miracle Matter, we were sent right into the true final boss. This horrifying, nightmare-fueled creature. And really, he's just kind of a joke. You need to dodge his spark attack, which I did by constantly moving to the left. While doing this, you gotta hit him in the eye a bunch of times until he's stunned. At this point, you can just hit the halo on top of their head, which eventually causes them to let out their gaseous vine, which you can hit to do some damage. This can take a while, but it's really no problem at all. With that, we get the final achievement for our initial playthrough. Now that we have 17 out of 38 achievements, it may seem like we still have a lot left to do, but I'm about to get 7 of the remaining 21 achievements super fast here. The next set of achievements I'm gonna go for are the achievements for getting every ability combination. And here's a really good tip for you. Through intense research, I found that stage 2 of Popstar was the best place to do this. It has every type of ability and pretty close together too. I start off with getting everything for bomb, cutter, fire, spark, rock, needle, then ice. I told you I'd get these 7 really fast, and now we only have 14 more to go. Not too shabby. The next 3 achievements have to do with the mini games that Kirby 64 is hiding within its settings menu. You basically need to beat each mini game once on the hardest settings. The first of them is the 100-yard hop. The best way I can explain this is that it's kind of like hopscotch. Pressing A has you jump 2 spaces and B has you go 1 space. What you need to do is race your opponents to the end while also dodging any hazards in the way. This starts off super easy, but eventually gets way harder. On easy mode, there is barely anything in the way, but by the time you get to insane mode, you have to deal with things like frogs who are hopping, fish, and turtle shell dudes. But I'm a natural born gamer, so it only took me 2 attempts on insane mode. This second game mode is the worst thing known to man. I hate this thing with a burning passion. You need to collect more fruits in your basket than your opponents. But here's the thing. You can push and swap places with the CPUs, and as you get higher up in difficulty, it just gets horrendous to play. It pretty much just becomes RNG. I ended up just spamming swap and prayed that I would collect the gems in the final stage, and also pray that my enemies would get hit by bombs so they would go back to a score of 0. I would never suggest playing this game mode. I will never ever be touching it again. Sorry. The last of the 3 achievements is actually my favorite. It's kind of like Spleef or the final stage of Fall Guys. You need to take out the floor underneath your opponents while staying alive yourself. Each player gets 5 lives, but there's some pretty cool strategy you can deploy. For insane mode, this is what I personally did. I stalled as long as I could, trying my very best to not fall off. I would let the CPUs go after each other and hope that I have close to full lives when it was time for a 1v1. Then I would just get super aggressive and take out the last CPU. The last 11 achievements in this set are going to be split up into a few different categories. Special boss challenges, getting every enemy card, then 2 achievements that have to do with the boss rush mode. And the first of the ones we're going to take on are going to be the boss challenges. The first of which was the Adeline fight. I did mention this before, but if you're like me and didn't get this during your first playthrough, you're going to have to start a new file for this one. I needed to use the Stone Friends combo, Rock and Cutter, to beat this fight. And if I'm being honest, this one was really easy. For Wispy Woods, we need to use the ice cutter stakes to take him out and damageless, which is honestly kind of tough. The skates don't have a proper attack. You can only get hits on Wispy Woods within this tiny window. Once I got that timing down, it was also pretty easy. It only took a couple of tries. Pix needs us to use the Fireworks ability, again damageless, which is honestly kind of a same but different deal as the skates. The Fireworks have a pretty small hitbox, and you need to get real close to the crystals in order to hit them. So I would get hit pretty frequently and need to restart, but it wasn't anything that a little bit of persistence couldn't do. Now, these next 2, in my opinion, are the hardest 2 boss challenges of the set. For Aqua, the shark, you need to essentially use the worst ability in the game. And just so I don't have to tell you each and every time, the rest of these boss challenges are all damageless as well. I really don't know why I didn't mention that sooner. Would have probably saved this video a little bit of runtime. So yeah, Aqua has you use the ice and fire fusion, and I swear this ability was made to be useless. This attack hitbox is smaller than the other 2 we've already done, and I also have to deal with the whole swimming thing. The main problem was the second phase of the fight, when Aqua was swaying back and forth, but I figured something out. He has a pretty predictable pathing, so I would just sit on the edge of his range, spam B, and pray that I hit him and he doesn't hit me. And this next one for Magman is the exact opposite problem as I had with the melting ice cube. The ability has too much range, and it can also damage me, which yeah, we can't have that happening. The Dynamite Kirby ability makes this fight hard. You need to throw your attacks out at the right time, then hide in your hat so you don't get hit. And also, I need to deal with properly dodging Magman's own attacks. But I found that Magman was pretty weak to this ability. So it wasn't that this was a marathon fight, it was actually mechanically challenging. Sometimes I was able to get Magman to get to phase 2 in just a few hits. Honestly, phase 2 came down to whether or not my RNG was good. Since I needed to be huddled into my hat, some attacks made it pretty hard for myself to get damage in, while also dodging what's coming my way. I lost a bunch to falling rocks or Magman turning into a puddle of lava, but eventually I got a pattern where I could easily spam him for the win. Optimus Prime over here needed me to use the base level spark ability, which once again meant my range was super limited. Thus, I needed to wait for the correct types of attacks to get my hits in. You can get a ton of damage during this slam attack, which I found to be pretty handy to know. Phase 2 though was pretty easy. If you stand underneath the cockpit area of the robot thingy, you can just spam attacks until you win. This one might have honestly been even easier than Wispy Woods. Then for Miracle Matter, this one was straight up damageless and abilityless. So again, this one was a grind for me to do. I said this earlier, but you can only basically do chip damage on this thing. And yeah, like I said, it's really just a marathon. There's not much to say here other than it was hell to go through. Just if you ever go for this set, you'll know my pain. I mean, I died over and over and over and over and over until I locked in enough to win. The last of these boss challenges was just another damageless for O2. It's not too bad. No spoilers, but all of these are just gonna really prepare us for the final achievement I'm going for in this set. So stick around for that. But before we tackle that one, we need to do the gambling I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. I need to get all of those enemy cards. Thankfully, I was already getting a bit of a head start through the initial playthrough, and I had 17 out of the 81 cards, which isn't a lot, but it's something. What I did was go into stage 1 and get the double fire ability and fast forward my way to the end of the level over and over again. It really was a grind. This one wasn't necessarily hard, it was just a time sink. Even still, while fast forwarding, it took me an hour of playing straight to unlock all the cards. Also, pro tip, this achievement doesn't trigger until you inspect all of the cards in the enemy info menu. Next thing that's up is the boss arena, which is just a boss rush. As we know, we have 2 achievements here. One for beating the boss rush period, and the other for beating the boss rush damageless. But beating the boss rush on its own can be tough. You need to defeat every single boss in a row with no heals. So you have 6 hits to go through all of the bosses with no abilities, which also adds another layer of difficulty. This is tough, but the boss challenges I did earlier at least prepared me a bit to take on the boss arena. The initial one already took me a long time because I need to get used to fighting each boss with no abilities. The extra layer of difficulty here is how long that each of the attempts actually takes. On the attempt that I finally won, it took me 18 minutes to get through and beat O2, which, as you might imagine, for the final achievement of this set, the damageless arena, meant that I was resetting a lot far into this challenge. Thankfully, I was really well prepared to start doing this challenge, so bosses like Wispy Woods and Pix weren't much of a match for me. Instead of explaining everything, it's been a few videos since I've done a montage, so let me show you a montage of how many times I lost a run. And that was it. After 13 hours, 20 minutes, and 43 seconds, I got the achievement for True Arena Champion and have mastered the set for Kirby 64. It might not come as a surprise to you to hear that I am someone who is obsessed with seeing 100% completions on all the games that I play. And Retro Achievements just adds another layer of challenge to my obsession. And I have to say, I think that the Kirby 64 set was a perfect level of difficulty to feel like I both saw everything the game had to offer and felt thoroughly challenged by some of the achievements in the set. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This one was a doozy. Please no!